Hello and welcome to the 2025 NAB AFLW Fixture Release Show. I'm Sarah Black and it's great to have your company. I'm joined by AFLW expert Jem Bastiani and the AFL's Head of Strategy and Scheduling, Josh Bowler. Josh, another fixture done and dusted. How did it all wash up for you?
Thanks, Sarah. It is great to have another fixture out, that's for sure. The fixture takes place over sort of a month and a half of building the fixture. A lot goes into it. We consider a whole bunch of requests around footy, days break between games, who plays who, and then ultimately we're trying to get as many fans to either watch or go to games as possible and watch another great AFLW season.
And Jem, good to have you on board. You've pored over the fixture. You've got all the details for us. Firstly, let's have a look at the headlines. What are some of the things we need to look out for this year?
We do have some pretty interesting headlines for this fixture. We've got a 12-round season that will take place over 12 weeks, which is different to last year. We've got Indigenous rounds and Pride rounds happening once again. Both will take place over 2 weeks rather than one. There's a focus on traditional time slots and some flexible timings, which we'll get to in a moment with Josh. No midweek fixtures is a big one to look at there. We also don't have any double headers, so we will get to that as well, Sarah. But traditional time slots, super important.
Definitely. And one thing we did know coming into the full release of the fixture was that we were going to have Carlton and Collingwood starting off the competition on a Thursday night. And now if you take a look at the full round one fixture, take us through the fixturing of this round one and why it was so important to kick things off with Carlton and Collingwood.
Yeah, so as you noted before, it is the 10th season and there's so much to celebrate about the last 10 seasons of AFLW, and what better way to start the season than Carlton Collingwood, the first ever game at Icon Park, a venue that has meant a lot to AFLW and has evolved with AFLW over time, and we think that's a great opportunity to pack out Icon Park again and start the season in a big way.
Now, with the 12 rounds, it means we come back 2 weeks compared to last year. We have 2 weeks of overlap with the men's home and away season, but we don't have any double headers in the fixture with them. I know some fans were probably hoping for that. Can you explain why there aren't any? Yeah,
so when we started looking at the fixture, firstly, it's the first time we've actually delivered 18 games in one round of football, and the big focus was getting the best fixture for the AFLW competition, first and foremost, and so we've delivered on that. And we didn't want the alignment of matchups to the men's fixture to take away from that. And so what we've ended up with is some really big marquee moments across that. We play at North Sydney Oval, which has been such a great venue for AFLW to date. We've got North Melbourne Geelong on the Saturday, the Bulldogs versus Melbourne on a Saturday night, which is the two teams that were there from the start, and then it's going to be an interesting game on the Sunday with Brisbane Hawthorn as well.
There will be. We've also got the flexible timing. So in round 24 of the AFL season, it's still a floating fixture as it stands, so it makes it a bit difficult for you to align so clubs aren't clashing with their own sides. Can you talk us through how that flexible timing is going to work throughout round 24 and then the men's final series?
Yeah, so we've worked with clubs over a number of the years. We've obviously overlapped with finals before and we've seen this in play. We're hoping we don't have to use it, but it's ultimately if two games are going to overlap which involve the same club, we want that fan base to be able to watch both games. And so we've put some guardrails in place where we may be able to move the start time of the game. We'll work with the clubs in the lead up to that with plenty of notice, and that'll be announced as soon as we know what the men's fixture is going to be for that week.
Now, the other known entity of the fixture coming into this was that Indigenous round is going to be played over rounds 3 and 4. And Josh, we're heading back up to Darwin. How exciting is that for women's footy?
Yeah, very. The fixture is a lot of what we're trying to do over here is build marquee moments throughout the competition and build ritual things that happen year in, year out. And so we've been working with the NT government, who is a great partner. Richmond and Essendon have really clearly champions of the Dreamtime concept and took it to Darwin for the first time last year. It was a great success. It was a pretty close game as well. And so we're looking forward to having that out again, and that'll continue to be a mainstay in the fixture in future.
You said it was a close game. It was actually a draw. It was very thrilling. It was a very hectic match report to write, but I loved my time up in Darwin. Can't wait to get up there again. Indigenous round, rounds 3 and 4, and Pride round, such an important part of the AFLW fixture, Josh. And for the first time, it's going to be played over 2 rounds in rounds 9 and 10.
Yeah, so we talk to clubs a lot about this when we do the fixture. Just about 18 clubs request a home game during Pride round, and so I think that was justification enough to get every club to celebrate Pride Round in a Pride game in Pride Round, and as much as clubs celebrated it around, it just felt right to spread the round across 2 weeks and give every club the opportunity.
We're moving our way through the fixture now. This is great. It's cracking pace, Josh, you've set us off at. The grand final week for the men's, it's like the favourite, best week in Melbourne, honestly. It's so good. And we're going to have all the AFLW teams feature in different parts of the country. What do you look at when it comes to grand final week for the men's and balancing that with maximising attendance and focus on the AFLW competition?
Yeah, so we've had a fairly similar formula for the last couple of years now. Geelong have hosted a Thursday night game. Yep. This will be their 3rd year in a row. And what we try to do in Melbourne, it's a public holiday in Melbourne, so we have a number of games in Melbourne on that day. We saw Windy Hill pack out last year on the Friday afternoon, so we look forward to seeing that again. And then naturally what that means on the Sunday, there'll be a number of games in the non-Victorian markets. The Brisbane-Adelaide game last year, I believe, was the highest attended game of the season. So we hopefully will see some big results on the Sunday as well after the grand final. Yeah,
the Lions turned that into a Sunday party to welcome back their returning men's heroes after that flag win. I can't wait for that Geelong-Hawthorn game, Gem, by the way. That was a thriller last year and it's going to be an absolute cracker again on that Thursday night. Speaking of how teams ended up, let's take a look at last year's ladder just to remind ourselves where it all, or how it all shook out, more to the point. And Josh, the ladder itself is actually a building tool when it comes to the fixture. We've got 12 rounds this year, which is great, but 17 teams. How do you go about balancing that to make the most equitable fixture possible? And how does the ladder fall into that?
Yeah, so similar to the AFL competition where there's a weighted rule based on a 6-6-6 formula, we adopt the similar type of thing to determine the opponents for each of the W clubs. So that is broken across 6-6-6 based on finishing positions after finals last season, and each club will play either 4 or 5 of their own group of 6 and then 3 or 4 of the alternative groups of 6.
Yes, so for those playing along at home, North Melbourne to Port Adelaide finished in the top 6 last year, so the Power are going to have a tough draw this time around. Richmond to the Dogs are in the middle 6 and West Coast to Collingwood are in the bottom 6 and looking for possibly a little bit of an easier ride. Gemma, Port Adelaide last year, they were just some of the, they were some of the best footy we've seen.
Yes.
Some of the most exciting footy. Who do you see as being a bit of a bolter this year, now that we're looking at the weighting of the fixture and the like? Who's set to take advantage of that 6-6-6 breakdown?
Yeah, so Port Adelaide obviously finishing a bit lower the previous season. It meant that they maybe had a slightly softer draw, but then they made the most of it in finals, the biggest comeback in AFLW history, we should mention, against Hawthorn. I think it's going to be Melbourne this year. Obviously, Melbourne, we know that they're a powerhouse of the competition, but they did have a poorer season last year, injury, trade, all that sort of stuff. But this year, because they fall into that bracket slightly below, I think they're going to be the ones to shoot back up the ladder based on their form, but also maybe a slightly easier fixture.
Now, Gem, there's nothing more than you like than taking a deep dive on something. She's our stats guru. She loves all the details.
Yes.
Take us through, not just your headlines, but what are some of your key fixture call-outs from this upcoming fixture?
Yeah, so the first one is we're on track to see the first players reach the 100-game milestone in round 7. Ali Anderson and Ebony Marinoff, obviously playing for Brisbane and Adelaide. They're not playing against each other, but they're playing at the same time on the same day to ideally bring up that milestone, save for injury or suspension. Craig Starcevich will become the first head coach to reach 100 games as well the following round in round 8. Dogs and D's will play in the Hampson Hardeman Cup in round 1, which we didn't have last year for the very first time, so it'll be great to see that back on the roster there. Rivalries being spread across multiple rounds, as you said. It also includes a grand final rematch in round 5, but we'll also have the state-based rivalries across a number of rounds instead of all in one. And the last one I want to ask you about, Josh, we're completing the set. So the 4 matchups that we've never seen in AFLW history before have all been fixtured in this one. How important was it to make sure those matchups got completed in this home and away fixture?
So, firstly, I know it's a talking point every year. The opponent framework actually dictates this a lot, and so that's sort of been the factor that's held us back over time. But with time comes outcomes a little bit, and we've managed to get there this year, which is exciting for everyone.
So the 4 of those, for those playing at home, Hawthorn v North Melbourne, Melbourne v Port Adelaide, Melbourne v Sydney, and the last one is happening in round 1, GWS v Essendon. So it's great to see all of those manage to get into the fixture this year.
Part of that round 1 blockbuster, the Giants playing up in Canberra. They've got a few games in Canberra this year, so make sure you check your fixture if you're a Giants fan. Now, Josh, you've got so many things to juggle with something like this. And, I'm sure top of the list are the opinions of the clubs. They've all got things they want. They've all got their wish lists. What's been the feedback so far? And how much consultation goes into that when working with the clubs?
Yeah, so we do get a fixture submission from clubs every year, and it is very difficult to meet every request, I will say. But we talk to clubs throughout the fixture build, so they have an idea of what we are meeting, what we aren't meeting, and hopefully they're all pretty comfortable with what they've received.
Hopefully they've ticked off their Santa's checklist, their present list for the year. Thanks for your time, Josh and Jem, and thank you for joining us at home. For all the latest news on the fixture and all things AFLW, head to women's.afl and the AFLW channels. Now, on the way out, here's a little package to whet your appetite heading into the 2025 NAB AFLW Premiership season.
Paddled by Celine Moody. Finn, flying Finn. Funnels it wide. Peterson against Butler. Butler snaps. That's miraculous.
Has some time to assess her option inside 50. Goes to a one-on-one. Good option. Brennan turns, snaps, and goals. From 40 out towards the square, and the mark is taken by Amy Franklin. Kaufman, Lally, snaps, and Fremantle will win 7 straight derbies.
And Craven kicks the opening goal of the grand final.
Randall snuck around the corner, finds O'Loughlin the goal sneak.
The Can't Lose Kangas are AFLW premiers for the first time.
Keeps it low. Smith will go hard. Oh, the Giants go to ground. And the snap from the Swans, Amy Whelan. Stanton pumps it long for the Suns. Looking for Oliver, gets out the back, and the shot on goal is straight through the middle. On the approach, Dakota Davidson loves these moments.
Over the head of Levicki, but there's numbers at the fall of the ball. And Goody, the young gun, is one to watch.